Okay, we are live. Welcome to this week's Xbox Factor podcast, where the entire crew that you know and love is here to talk about not only the Xbox news, but just gaming news in general that obviously will affect the Xbox fan base. And to do that, we have to go first to the returning founder of the Xbox Factor podcast, and that, of course, is the Welsh gamer. Welsh, welcome back after a 4-week hiatus.
Oh man, it's been a slow 4 weeks without the Xbox Factor show as part of my schedule. I can only apologize, but I'm glad I'm here. And to be fair, the best part about having a little break for whatever reason, whether it's due to family members coming down with the illnesses or this, that, and the other, is the fact that there's always a triumphant and incredible message from you folks. Mr. Boomstick with a whole returning Welsh game and all. Man, it's wicked. It's like being in WWE, like an entrance, like being one of those big entrances. Like, do you smell what the Welsh is cooking? It's amazing. So yeah, I'm glad to be back, and we got some incredible topics.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot. This is going to be a very fun show. And of course, someone that has recently joined the fray, and I say recently because actually he's been doing this for a couple of months. We have the bravest gamer you might ever come across, known as the man who took on Resident Evil blindfolded with nothing but a pair of chopsticks. Please welcome Zemi Games.
I love it. The bravest man. Well, thank you so much, Boom, for lying for me. I appreciate that. Yeah, super excited to be here. So much news. This was a super heavy week for Xbox news. With all of the leaks, with all of the new stuff that we actually know is happening, and so I can't wait to jump into the show and hear everybody's opinions.
Well, listen, we're gonna go right into this. We're not gonna cut any mustard here. Obviously, yesterday there was world breaking news that happened. It basically took the interwebs by storm, and the official Twitter account of South Africa Xbox let basically the cat out of the bag on potentially one of the biggest secrets for 2020 that I think anyone could have dropped this late in the year. Now, yesterday, a keen-eyed Twitter user by the name of Middle Age Gamer Guy dropped me some unbelievable. As a matter of fact, it is so unbelievable that I had to read it twice. And because I want to make sure that everyone knows what the H I'm talking about, I'm going to be doing some different production things. I took some cues from watching professional podcasters like, let's say, Dealer with the RDX, where he brings stuff up on the screen. And of course, I've seen Salty do it and a few others. So I'm bringing up the article that was sent to me, and it says, rumor, Cyberpunk 2077 could be coming to Xbox Game Pass. Now, listen, again, folks, we have to understand this is speculation. I am not confirming anything, but before we get into the actual story, I have to thank publicly Middle Age Gaming Guy for not only dropping these two pictures, which I'm going to bring up the second one in a second. We were talking privately through DM, and of course, because it's private, I'm not going to disclose what we talked about, but I do have to say that he had some extremely kind things to say about not only my podcasting skills, but the shows that I run. And of course, I have to announce that he has become a channel member, which I'm going to be putting up on the screen in a second. That's a tremendous support. But as great as the support for the super chats and of course the channel support through membership is, it's the conversations and the kind words that you hear from people. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm almost a little embarrassed to say that I have fans because I don't consider myself to be anything other than a guy that just really loves this community and truly enjoys talking about gaming. And I'm in a prime position because I'm retired to be able to do this as my, I guess, my second career. So I'm only able to do that through the ridiculous support that I have gotten from this community. So of course I had to give a big shout out not only to middle-aged game guy himself, but his wife also listens to the show, and that is actually really humbling and ultra cool. So thank you for that. But more importantly, thank you for allowing me to get this information, because as a podcaster, it's very rare when you're small, when you have a small channel like mine, that you're going to get a news drop like this. And obviously, I'm going to bring up the second picture, which actually we'll want to talk about right now. Now, this second picture, as you can see, is a tweet, and it's from Xbox South Africa, and obviously it's at Xbox ZA. And right here in front of me, in front of Zemi, in front of Welsh Gamer and everybody, 71 people plus people in the chat, it clearly says this: Xbox Game Pass is your ticket to endless play. Get it now. And underneath there is a screenshot of Cyberpunk 2077. Now, here's the thing, folks. Okay. Now, I understand. I mean, I put out a tweet yesterday. It has over 200 likes, and it's not surprising. But as we have discussed, Welsh and of course Zemi, numerous times on this show, Xbox Game Pass is in fact the greatest thing since sliced bread, and one of the most consumer-friendly services ever to grace the home console. Now, to say that Xbox Game Pass is important to Microsoft in the next generation, when Cyberpunk 2077 is set to release, would be considered the biggest understatement of the century. The Xbox gaming community has been waiting. We all have been waiting for the first big-time, third-party, AAA monster to come to Xbox Game Pass day and date and bring a quality title that everyone in the world is going to be playing and looking at. And to think for a second that this is a possibility completely blew my mind. Now, Zemi, I want to go to you first on this. When I DM'd you guys with this information, what was your first thought?
My first thought was, wow, Xbox is getting really good at announcing these games early to Game Pass. Because a few weeks ago, I think Phil Spencer announced Control, and then now South Africa.
It was a bit of a boo-boo.
Is announcing Cyberpunk 2077. So that was probably my very first thought is, man, these guys really, really like announcing things way before they should. But yeah, I was, part of me kind of didn't believe it, and part of me still kind of doesn't believe it, because it's such a huge piece of news. Cyberpunk is a game that I've been excited for the last 9 months probably now. And the idea that game could be coming to Game Pass is just super, super exciting. I don't know if it's going to release day and date. For me, I kind of think that might not happen. It might, come out a few months after, like maybe in summer, maybe in fall of 2020. But just the idea that the game will, possibly be on Game Pass at some point next year is absolutely mind-boggling. Because so many people are interested in that game, that is high up on a lot of people's lists, and the idea of just getting it, I say for free. I know that we all pay for Game Pass, but in a way, it's almost like it's free. Is just incredible.
Listen, let me just bring up a stat for a second. Now, I have seen there are a lot of people, and it's completely understandable. If you are A, on the fence with this, B, don't believe it at all, and C, or like myself, are excited to your core. No one's wrong here, okay? Because there's a lot to believe, and there's a lot of stuff that, well, you have to take it with a grain of salt. But we have to take into account the amount of money Microsoft is willing to invest in something that they believe in. And I bring up the $2.6 billion with a B dollars that they spent on Mojang to own Minecraft. And that happened, I believe, around 4 or 5 years ago. And since then, I don't know. I don't have the financials in front of me, but I think I can assert with the knowledge that I have of the deal, that they have made their money back, and they might have even surpassed it. Because obviously Minecraft is something that's in the top 10 NPDs almost every month, just like GTA. And it's basically an IP that prints money. So when you think about that, when you think about how they're looking to invest in the future, how they're willing to do the things that some other companies will not do, but more importantly can afford to do, this is not out of the realm of possibility. Now, Welsh, I want to go to you first because you responded to me first about this. Now, look, we know what they did with Mojang, and we know how much money they're making with Mojang, but we also have an inkling of how much money is coming in on a monthly basis from Xbox Game Pass. And that's just one service. We're not talking about Xbox Live. We're not talking about anything else that people buy digitally. We're talking about just strictly Xbox Game Pass. They're currently making money hand over fist. And we've talked about this even before Zemi became a part of the Xbox Factor podcast, how important Xbox Game Pass is to Phil Spencer, Satya Nadella, and the Xbox platform. And I have to be honest with you. If, let's just say, for instance, that, and I still believe it's going to be, that's just me. No one has tipped me with this. I think we're going to get a delay with Cyberpunk. And I think it's going to come out in the fall. Right, and this is my play on it. And I want to get your opinion on this. Just imagine for a second. Just imagine that it does get delayed, right? Gets delayed by 3 or 4 months, and it launches around the holiday where Xbox could potentially launch. Now we're thinking November, but let's say, for instance, they're going to do a power play, right? We know they have a 2-console SKU that we're going to get into a little bit later. And we know how important Game Pass is. We know they want to one-up Sony any way they can. Could you effing imagine if, not only, because we know they have the marketing rights. That's confirmed. Xbox has the marketing rights. Could you just imagine if they turn around and they're able to say, hey, when you're going to play Cyberpunk 2077, we're going to have not only the most powerful console, but the best place to play. And you get it day one in the box because Game Pass is going to be included. Come on, man. That's a sales pitch of epic proportion. So much so I've gotten goosebumps just saying it out loud. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a ballsy play. I'll give them that. I mean, like this is the thing, right? In the time we've been doing this show, and even before we shook hands and started this show, like both of us have been saying, like either in DMs or like when we crossed paths doing like other shows, like as guests or whatever. But we have been saying for a long time that like the Xbox platform was lacking in a few areas, and that was, the pardon me, the partnerships, the marketing rights. You've got the marketing in general, custom consoles, all these different things. Then earlier on in this gen, it was the power, lacking in the power. I just think this is a really good, like, going off of what you've shown us earlier, that tweet that was taken down, I just think what you're saying holds a lot of weight, and there's a lot of potential for that to be true. Now, I think personally what they could do if they were in fact, like if all of this is, let's just assume it's all true and it is 100% going to be on the Xbox Game Pass service day and date or what have you, it would be very interesting indeed to if they maybe did like a custom console or a bundle with like a year's worth of Xbox Game Pass to promote Cyberpunk 2077. And I can imagine a lot of people as well saying like, oh, they're not going to do that, like, CD Projekt Red, because they'll lose money or whatever. But you've got to think about who they are as a developer. Like, if you go back in time a little bit, back to like 2015, I think it was, when The Witcher 3 launched, that game came out at a very low price of, if I literally, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone in the UK, if you can correct me, but if I am not mistaken, I bought that game the day it launched for £19.99.
Wow.
So that was a AAA title for like well under the full price tag. And that game succeeded across the board. It got Game of the Year that year, and people were buying it left and right. And my point is, CD Projekt Red know their worth. They know that they have a hot freaking product on their hands. I don't see any reason for them on a business standpoint to get their game out to as many people as possible, especially with the market share now that PC gamers are loving the Game Pass service, playing Halo Reach and that Master Chief Collection as we speak, and all these other things coming through the woodwork. I just think if I was in CD Projekt Red's shoes right now, having a market deal with Xbox, this is certainly something that I would want to happen. And also, even if there is no delay with the Cyberpunk 2077 release, and it comes out however many months before the Scarlett release and the Lockhart release, maybe they can do a promotional thing where it's like, buy it now or wait, I don't know, but you will be able to get it day and date on the Xbox Game Pass service come the new SKUs of the new generation when they drop. There's so many ways they can go around this, but I think for me, I think the most appealing for the masses would be if they could organize it in such a way where they delay the game by like a couple of months or what have you, and they literally launch the game side by side with the next generation of Xbox as like a bundle package. Obviously, you'll be able to buy the game on its own, if you will. Like there's always going to be people, right? There's probably still people with the Xbox One fat, just don't give a crap, and they're waiting for Cyberpunk because they don't care. But I just think it'd be a great way to do it, and just incredible. And if I honestly do believe this is true, I do think that we're going to see it in Game Pass, and for the record as well. Every single game from Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Metro Exodus, and that's just naming a couple of really big games. I can't think off the top of my head of any others, but these are big AAA third.
Well, think about it. They had the marketing rights for Resident Evil 2, Devil May Cry 5.
Devil May Cry 5, thank you.
There's quite a few of them where they had these marketing rights, something that we have complained about in the past, something that is, if you could remember early on in the Xbox One, Phil Spencer shied away from. And yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't have the list in front of me, but I can assure you that it is a stout list of games. And the one thing that we have to take into account, and I don't think I'm wrong for saying this, just about every game that they had the marketing rights eventually made its way to Game Pass.
That's literally where I was going with my statement. Like Metro Exodus, you mentioned Devil May Cry 5. Thank you for the addition, because all I could think of was Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Metro, but there's a few others as well. They all launched in their own respectable month or whatever of the respectable year, and then no more than 2 or 3 months up the line, when the dust had settled, boom, there you have it on Larry Herb's Xbox News of the Week little 5-minute spill. They were announcing that said game was going to be in Game Pass for no extra charge. And Cyberpunk, like I mentioned earlier about The Witcher, and the fact that they don't mind selling at a loss or not selling at a loss, but being reasonable with their price tags and stuff like that. It wouldn't surprise me if they literally give the green light for it to be a day and date drop when the new Xbox comes out for the Game Pass service. It would not surprise me in the slightest. But at the very least, the reason this tweet is at least to some degree accurate is, even if it isn't a day and date drop, if you're like me and you haven't got all the money in the world, and you haven't got that however much to drop on Cyberpunk, for a fact as a Game Pass subscriber you will be getting your hand on that game eventually within about 2 or 3 months of its release. So I think it's incredible, and again, it's testament to Xbox's aggressiveness with these marketing deals now, something we long to see. Better late than never. I hope to see more of it going into the next gen. It's a testament to how incredible the Game Pass app is. It is truly a killer app now. It's not just got some of the best first-party projects being worked on to go day and date in for the subscribers, but you're getting games third-party and second-party and even indies. Just great content coming in. And the cherry on the cake, Cyberpunk 2077, which for a hell of a lot of people, Boom and Zemi, is probably the most anticipated game of 2020 moving forward. So if they can make something happen where it drops day and date or as close to day and date on the Game Pass service, you're on to an absolute winner going into a new generation, because it's technically, if for lack of a better term, going to be a launch title to go alongside the Scarlett and the Lockhart. Obviously, it's not going to be an exclusive launch title, but it'll play best on those systems, and it'll be on Game Pass promoting the service. I could go on all day. I'll end on this. All those months and all the years we've heard that Game Pass is this, Game Pass is that, it's really showing why Phil Spencer is an absolute genius and so ahead of his time. He's just so ahead of the curve. Like all the other, I've said it before, he's gone past the finish line. He's ready to do another lap. And and honestly, these other guys, Sony, Nintendo, even Google Stadia, I'm roping them in as well. They are literally they haven't even heard the gun go off yet. They haven't even started running. Like, it's just hilarious. Not hilarious. I suppose it's quite comical only because of the fan bases slating left and right. But man, interesting days ahead of us, and I'm excited.
Well, listen, before I continue on this particular topic, I have to thank CDFS, known as Lurk Too Cold, for the outstanding and extremely generous $40 super chat. Wow, man. Thank you so much for that. He says, today should be a fun day for us gamers. Peace and love, everyone. Happy holidays, Boom and crew. Well, thank you so much for that. That is extremely generous. But more importantly, thank you for being here. And, of course, the very kind words. Look, let me say this. You know, there has been a running narrative when you talk about Phil Spencer as being the nice guy, right? The good guy of the industry. It's probably why he's one of I admire him so much, because I, of course, like him, even though I don't have no power and no money like he does, I enjoy being a good guy. I enjoy handshaking with the people. I enjoy doing good things for no other reason other than it makes me feel good, but more importantly, it's going to make someone else feel good. And I'm limited to what I can do, but I still go out every day to try and help people. That's just the way I am. And, you know, one of the major factors about Phil that people never take into account is the fact that, yes, he's a good guy. Yes, at his core, he's a gamer. He is like me and you, believe it or not. He just makes 7 figures. That's the only difference. But at his core, he is a Microsoft guy. He's a businessman, and he is going to go out of his way. And he has said it numerous times before that they will not create the same mistakes that hurt them in 2013. They have learned from those mistakes. He is now the right hand of Satya Nadella. He has his ear. There's no more human roadblocks in front of him or Don Matrix, good old Donnie D making stupid comments, causing the implosion of the brand. He's running the show. And we have to understand that they are in a position where their backs have been to the wall. Now, granted, they have made huge power moves since, if you go, post E3 2018. So I know I've seen Twitter. Twitter had a lot of comments. And like I said earlier, when we first started this topic, no one's opinion is wrong. I want that to be completely understood. If your opinion differs than from what I'm saying or what Zemi or what Walsh is saying, you know what? That's fine. That's the nature of the beast. Not everyone is going to agree, and that's good. But some of the comments I saw is like, this can't happen, Boom. It's literally impossible. And my answer to someone who does say that is the power of the dollar changes many opinions. And, I think I have to say this publicly so people understand, because some people have this thought process that when a company puts a game in Game Pass, somehow or another, they have now become desolate or poor, and they can't pay the rent and feed their families. That's not the way it works. When a game is put into Game Pass, Microsoft pays said developer X amount of dollars. Now, I couldn't tell you how many zeros is in that check, but they're not doing it for free or the love of the Xbox brand. They're doing it because it is a business at the end of the day. So, Zemi, I'm going to go back to you on this.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on this? I mean, listen, like I said earlier, they spent $2.6 billion on Mojang, and they were being roasted by people for this move. How dare they do that? They need first-party developers. This is the dumbest move ever. Fire Phil Spencer. And if you look at what they've done with it since that happened, I'm like I said, I'm not going to sit here and tell you they've doubled their money, and they're now sitting at $5.2 billion made on the deal. I don't know their business. I don't know their books like that, but I can assure you, based on the amount of time that has passed since the deal, based on the amount of time that Minecraft continues to be in the top 10 NPDs each and every month since the deal, and how many people continue to buy it, how many people have bought it 7 times already. They are making money on that IP hand over fist. Do you think that because Microsoft is the richest company in the world, if Phil Spencer wanted to do a power move, like a super business power move, could this deal actually be done?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, so, you kind of mentioned something like a lot of people are, on Twitter were talking about, well, this could never happen. This could never happen. It could absolutely happen. One of my favorite developers over on PC, they make a lot of grand strategy games. They're the developer's called Paradox, right? Whenever Game Pass for PC was announced, I think one of their latest games, I don't know if the game was released day and date, but it was released it was put on Game Pass very, very close to the release date. It was Imperator Rome. It literally got thrown onto Game Pass, very, very close to, them announcing Game Pass for PC. And they actually were interviewed in an article, and they basically kind of gave a little scoop of how Game Pass works. And what they had to say about that was the amount of hours that a player plays of your game, Xbox gives you a flat fee for the amount of hours, right? And I think that is one of the only articles that are really out there that actually give us an insight of how Game Pass works. We don't know if Microsoft pays them money, before on top of the hourly rate that a gamer might play their games, but just looking at CD Projekt Red, we know that they make really big games. It took a lot of people to, fully complete The Witcher 80 hours, right? So, it's not a far stretch to say that Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be another, CD Projekt Red time sponge, right? And the more people play your game, the more money you make on Game Pass, if you believe what, Paradox said in that interview, on that article. So I could definitely see see it coming to Xbox Game Pass, and, it could potentially be a day and date title. I don't necessarily think it will be, but it could, and they would still make, money, over and over and over again. Developers have came out multiple times praising Game Pass. They like what it does. They make a lot of money with it. And so just because a game goes into Game Pass doesn't mean that the game's dead, or, the developer is going to be desolate, out on the streets in a couple of years. That's not how it works. They get paid a lot for their title being on Game Pass. It's a win-win-win relationship, if you will. And so for that reason, I have to disagree with these people saying, well, Cyberpunk 2077 will never be on Game Pass. I definitely think it will, one way or another. It's just, when will it go on the Game Pass, I think, is the bigger question to ask. Will it be, day and date, or will it be 3 or 6 months later?
Well,
No, I mean,
can I interject?
Actually, I was going to go to you next, because we were going to come back around. This is a topic that required a few runs around the track, if you will. I don't think that it would have been fair to start the show and then kind of just end this on a fart. You know what I'm saying? So please, by all means, take it away.
Oh god, I thought my mic was muted. I had a curry last night. Have you been hearing my rippers? No, on a serious note though, gentlemen. I gotta point this out here and now. Like for anybody out there listening who is saying that the Cyberpunk 2077 will never ever go onto Game Pass, I can tell you right now, hashtag facts, you're wrong. It will. Like our discussion right now isn't so much will it or will it not go on the Game Pass. We're more talking about will it be a day and date drop. But I can assure you now, whether we're wrong or right about that, it is going to be on Game Pass. It wouldn't fit the pattern. Literally every single third-party title that has had the marketing deal with Xbox has eventually found itself on Game Pass. So that is a given. Done. There's no arguing that. It is a fucking fact. Yes. And if you tried to argue with me on that, you're a bloody deaf bastard. Now, I had to get a bastard in. But what I wanted to say next, though, is this tweet now, what gives it so much credit for me is the fact that once people started noticing, it was taken down quite abruptly. And now that is always, for me personally, a sign of a fuck up behind closed doors. Like, oh shit, what did we do? It's happened before with Larry Herb, where he's uttered something and he shouldn't have, and he's had to come out with like either an apology or take a tweet down. Gears Viking, even like Mike Ibarra and Phil have been guilty of it. It happens. We all make mistakes. The slip of a button, whatever. But my point is, right, let's just rewind before they even took this tweet down. The fact that they were putting that tweet out in the first place or hovered over it or weren't even sure, that speaks volumes for me. And do you want to know why, Boom and Zemi? Simply because in all the years so far that Game Pass has been a thing, and we've had these these third-party AAA titles dropping on Game Pass, I have never once... Now, this is going for Devil May Cry. This is going for Metro Exodus. This is going for Shadow of the Tomb Raider. And again, I'm sure there's more, but I just can't think off the top of my head. But those are very noteworthy titles, very well-known, big AAA titles, third-party titles. And I do not remember at any point in time any of those before their release being shown to be on the Xbox Game Pass service, because they wouldn't like those developers are probably in a stance where they're like, right, we're not going to announce it this early. We'll announce it a few months after it's been released. Whereas for this tweet to have dropped about Cyberpunk suggests to me, because I can't see any other reason why you'd even mention that it's going to Game Pass after everything I've just said. We know, anyone paying attention knows that it would be dropping on Game Pass eventually. So all this tweet suggests to me is that there's a very, very, very high possibility that it could be a day and date drop onto Game Pass. Otherwise, why else would you be putting that information on Twitter? Am I wrong in saying that? Like, it makes no sense. Like, I know we could butt heads and say, yeah, but this, yeah, but that. But think about it. Why would so-and-so put that tweet out in the first place unless it was going to be this big announcement, which obviously they retracted because they second-guessed themselves on a potential day and date release? Because like I just said, and just to be clear, and then I'll shut up, if anyone here is paying attention and has been following this show and been just reading news and not living under a rock, every game that has had a marketing deal with Xbox has found itself on Game Pass eventually within months of its initial release. Mm-hmm. So with that information, with that said, we could conclude ourselves without any of these tweets that we'd see Cyberpunk on there eventually. Now, I want to know why they even toyed with putting a tweet out in the first place, unless it was to announce the fact that Cyberpunk would be on Game Pass day and date. I just can't. It's like an itch in my brain I can't scratch, because in my head, if I was the person behind that tweet, I can't see any other motive to put that out for the world to see, unless it was to announce that this game will be available day and date. Do you know? Am I making sense, or am I just?
No. You're first of all, you're making perfect sense, and we also have to understand, these deals don't happen out of anywhere. They are done months and months and months in advance. And you have to understand that the more reports of the potential of subscriptions to Game Pass that get out there, if you are a third party, a second party, or an indie developer and you see this, you're like, wait a second. There are only supposedly 40 million consoles, Xbox consoles, right? And currently, based on different rumors that we have heard, they're sitting at potentially anywhere between 10 and 12 million subscribers to the service. And now that you've involved PC, it could be more, because obviously the PC market is one of those markets that's basically limitless. I mean, there are so many customers that are there, the potential to double or even triple the number, you don't know. So I mean, as it stands, let's just say hypothetically speaking that there are only 40 million Xbox One consoles in the world. I'm saying only because it's probably closer to 50, but let's undercut it here and let's say 40. And there are 10 million subscribers. Do you understand that's 25% of your install base is on board for this? And if you drop a game like a Cyberpunk in there, you could potentially double your numbers in one fell swoop, because the overall bang for your buck and what you're spending and what you're getting is like it's trying to compare grapes to a grapefruit. You know what I'm saying? They both start with the letter G, but they're absolutely totally different in size, shape, scope, and taste. And you know what I'm saying? So it's a power play. It's one that I think it's possible that they could do. They are wealthy enough to do it. And I think that if you're going to want to punch Sony in the mouth, I mean, come right out and just punch them in the mouth and really take the headlines away from them. This is the way to do it. This, and again, I honestly believe in my heart of hearts, I don't want to delay. And you know what's funny? I'm going to say something that makes I get again. I'm sorry that we're on this for so long, because this is a completely speculative topic. But there's two ways that this can go down, and I'll get you guys' opinion and the chat's opinion on this. But before I say what I have to say, first of all, I have to thank Smitty Smith for the outstanding and literally outrageous $30 super chat. But it's more important than what he says. He says, "Hello, panel and chat. I just wanted to donate some money for Mrs. Boomstick for some flowers to help her along in her recovery." Well, thank you so much for that, dude. I actually took a screenshot and I sent that to her, and she is completely moved. And Rain G4, not to be outdone, drops an outstanding $5 super chat. And he says, "If we had Game Pass at the beginning of this generation, Airtight Games, the company may have that made Murder Soul Suspect, would still be." I mean, it's possible. I mean, that Murder Soul Suspect, if you never played, that game is pretty interesting, actually a pretty good game. But here's my thought process for how this can go down. One of two ways. Let's say, for instance, it releases on time. I believe it's an April release, if I'm not mistaken, right? It's either April or May, supposedly, right? And it comes out and it launches, and it's gonna obviously play the best on the Xbox One X, right? That's I don't have to fluff this piece. It is what it is. It's the most powerful console available. End of story. And now, obviously, 2020, at the end of the 2020 holiday, 2020, more specifically, the Xbox Scarlett and Lockhart are going to be coming out, or the Xbox Anaconda and Lockhart are going to be coming out. Could you imagine if what you're talking about, and this goes back to what Welsh was saying, it may not launch in Game Pass day and date, but could you imagine if they can turn around and say, it just came to Game Pass the same day that the new system launches, and oh, by the way, it's the best looking version because of X, Y, and Z? Come on. I mean, again, I'm no marketing manager by any stretch of the truth, but I can tell you right now that would make headlines. It would pull headlines.
Oh, mate, that would that would be a huge driving force for both Cyberpunk and Xbox's new systems. It'd be a win-win for both CD Projekt Red and Microsoft. And this is the thing as well, not to cut you away, but literally, like, the people who insinuate that a game dropping on Game Pass, whether day and date or a month after release or whatever, is somehow detrimental to the success of said company, in this case CD Projekt Red, you're absolutely fooling yourself. This service will the more games like CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk drop into this service, the more first party studio titles like Halo Infinite, Gears 6, State of Decay 3, Forza Horizon 5, Fable, if we just keep rattling things off, and then whatever Ninja Theory and the Initiative are working on and all these things.
It's unbelievable.
Like people are going to gravitate towards this service until eventually, and this is the end game, guys, pardon the pun, pardon the quote of Avengers, but eventually when these systems do inevitably become an all digital space, because eventually, guys, whether it's in the next 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years, it's not always going to be that box under your TV. Eventually, before you know it, discs will die out. Eventually, then it'll be the box dying out. It might just be a dongle, or it might be an app you download on your smart TV. Yeah. Whatever the case, eventually we're going to get to that point. And this is what Xbox Game Pass as a service is building itself towards. Eventually, Xbox Game Pass will be the Xbox umbrella. So picture it in the year 2040, so 20 years from now, it'll be a case of you get home from work, you want to play some Halo Infinity 20, whatever Halo's out at that time, and instead of turning on your Xbox ZQ PZ2 double X, Y, and Z, you're just turning on your TV, and with a controller in hand, you select the app like you would Netflix, Amazon Prime, what have you, and in this case, the Xbox Game Pass app, and it's every available title to you, from first party, third party, and obviously the games that are third party with marketing deals, they'll be like within the service, and then you've got your separate area where you buy games that are third party that aren't under marketing, but it'll all be a digital space with Project X Cloud and these applications. That is where it is going, and that is why companies like CD Projekt Red, and believe me, they're not the only ones, are jumping on this bandwagon now, because they see the future and where it's going the same way Phil has seen and where it's going for the last 4 years now. It's not detrimental. It's a profitable move. Like it's almost guaranteeing a player base. Think about it. If you go back 10 years when it was literally the case of if you wanted to play CD Projekt Red Cyberpunk 27, you'd have to go to Blockbuster and reserve a disc, and hopefully there was enough discs that week. Or no, there's not enough, Bobby. You've got to come back next week for the next shipment. And you could go a week. If it's a popular title, you could go a week or two without getting your copy. And then obviously it's if you can afford a copy in the first place. Some people would have to wait till their birthday or wait till Christmas.
Yeah.
If you're now it's a case of, it's going to be dropping day and date on Game Pass. Oh, brilliant. I'm a subscriber to that service. I haven't got to wait. And CD Projekt Red is making a buck for every fucking individual who subscribes to that service and plays their game. They're getting a percentage of the profit. And believe me, the amount of people, active users on Xbox Game Pass, and it's growing evidently, exponentially with PC in the mix. Nintendo, there's talks of them getting a slice of the pie. It is literally endless with the Project X Cloud and potentially smart apps on TVs, like I just mentioned. This is going to explode. Before you know it, it'll just be second nature. And I know for a fact that if Sony and Nintendo catch up to where Xbox is right now, it'll be the same in their neck of the woods. Like if PlayStation in a few years from now, if they have like a service that is on par with Xbox Game Pass, but for PlayStation, if they have a marketing deal with, say, Star Wars Battlefront 5, just assuming that's the game at that time, they will get that game drop day and date on the PlayStation's own Game Pass service, and the guys over at Xbox will have to purchase the game because we haven't got the marketing deal. It'll be a perk of having the marketing deal, like a new perk, future-proofing these services. Man, I could go on all day. but that is literally like it's foresight, guys. If you just look past the blinkers for 5 minutes and just see where we are going in terms of a technological gaming space, it's pretty obvious at this point, if you ask me.
No, it's a great point. Zemi, before I get to your opinion, I have to thank quite a few people, actually. First of all, LMNOP with the outstanding $2 super chat. He says, good afternoon, gamers. How about that Resident Evil 3 statue? And don't you know that, yes, Boomstick is sitting right now at his desk, and right above his head is the Leon S. Kennedy Special Edition 12-inch statue from the collector's edition of Resident Evil 2, my game of the year. And of course, I went to GameStop and pre-ordered, put half down on the Resident Evil 3 collector's edition that comes with an identical statue, except it's going to have Jill Valentine. So of course, you know that is locked down. I'm a Resident Evil freak, and we're going to be talking about Resident Evil 3 tomorrow. I didn't want to talk about it today because BitCloud Gaming is a freak like me, so we're going to be talking about it big time. I have to thank a few other people. First of all, Spider-Man with the outstanding $5 super chat. He says Resident Evil 3 looks amazing, but that Ghost of Tsushima teaser was a joke. State of Play shouldn't have shown anything and waited to the Game Awards. Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. I didn't mind the tease because we're going to get the finished full-on trailer. It was just supposed to be a taste to get you excited for the Game Awards. And you know what? I understand. I mean, listen, go what Sucker Punch is going to do with that game, it's going to be epic. I don't doubt it. And of course, JD Gamer, thanks so much for being here, dude. Really appreciate it. He drops a $5 super chat. And he says, just look at the success of Outer Worlds, which launched in Game Pass day and date, and it did very well for them. And that it is a real and best example. Yeah, no, that's great. We got to remember that's a great, JD, that's a great point. Yeah, you get a round of applause for that because
thank you. Someone's fucking listening. Thank you.
Not only did it do well in the Xbox market with Game Pass, it sold still very well on both PC and of course the PlayStation 4, and eventually it's coming to Nintendo Switch, which I imagine is going to sell very well. Now, Zemi, before we get to the next really big topic, I know you're pumped to talk about. Is there anything you'd like to add before we move on?
Not really. I think Welsh really knocked it out of the park with his closing statement, talking about how the industry is changing, how Game Pass, has a long life ahead of it, and I pretty much agree with pretty much what everybody said. So no, I don't really have too much more to say on it.
Okay, good. So let's move on to something that I'm going to go to you first on, because you had wrote to me in the DM, said, "Oh, this topic I'm excited about," and that's of course the power specs. But this one I didn't want to just kind of make it all about power. What I wanted to do is, because when you come to these shows, it's easy to read verbatim from an article, which I sometimes do. And you guys hear the way I speak. That's me reading from the show notes in front of me that I have, written for whatever show I'm doing. But I wanted this particular topic to be a little bit more of a thought-provoking one. And as you can see, I'm going to pull up what the next topic is going to be. Is Xbox Lockhart more important to the next generation plans than Xbox Anaconda? Now, here's the thing. We have confirmation by just about everyone but Microsoft that they are going with a 2 SKU or SKU approach. And if this goes the way I am hoping and predicting that it's going to go, they could logistically rocket immediately into first place, along with Project xCloud, Xbox Game Pass, their first-party launch lineup, Cyberpunk potentially going into Game Pass when the console launches. There's all of these variables, and individually, when you say them, they don't have a lot of weight. But like an army, it takes more than just a handful of people to build it. And the different things that I just mentioned are all going to merge, almost like Devastator from the Transformers, and to make go from individual vehicles to this monstrosity that just tears down everything in its in its path, and that in fact could be this what happens to to the next generation, with Microsoft potentially leading the charge. And here's why. Now, obviously, in the last couple of weeks, we have heard rumblings or whispers that the Xbox Lockhart was a thing. As a matter of fact, if you go back, I think it was maybe 6 weeks ago, maybe a little bit longer, we had Dealer Gaming on, and he basically broke no one really picked up on it, which I was very surprised, but he basically said on this show that he had confirmation that Lockhart was in fact a real thing, that he had, he couldn't identify his sources, but he was told this, and he knew this for a fact, and sure as shit, here we are, we're talking about it, and it looks like it's true. Now, in a recent report from Windows Central, where I pulled some of this information from, our good friend Jez Corden dropped some really outstanding information on both Microsoft's next generation hardware. And according to several sources familiar with Microsoft's plans, Anaconda currently is targeting around 12 teraflops of computing power compared to the Xbox One X, which has 6 teraflops. Also, the Xbox One S has 1.4 teraflops. Lockhart is also so apparently and allegedly going to sport around 4 teraflops. And I know you guys listened to Dealer Gaming, and he put out a video where he had to shut down a few of the naysayers, where he's saying it's I guess people think because one has 6 and one has 4 that the X is more powerful than the Lockhart, and of course that's not in fact the case. Just because the numbers are higher on one and lower on the other, you got to remember the GPUs and CPUs in both the Lockhart and Anaconda are severely more advanced than the Xbox One X with that and the PlayStation 4 Pro that are all sporting Jaguar cores. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know all the inner workings. I mean, that's why I'm subscribed to Colt, Eastwood, and Dealer Gaming, and those guys know their shit. I mean, those guys know the back end of the tech. Me, I just want to plug and play, and I have no problem admitting that. But as we talked about, as soon as we opened up this topic, I posed a question as to, is the Xbox Lockhart potentially more important than the next generation monstrosity known as the Monster Eater in the Anaconda? And the reason why I'm going to say I believe it is for 2 reasons, or for several reasons that I'll break down. And Zemi, I'm going to go to you first as soon as I'm done. We have to take into account a couple of things. I think that everyone that's in this chat now, we have surpassed numbers we haven't seen in a very long time. We are well over 200 people watching live at almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I honestly am blown away by that. I'm really happy that we have that many people coming in to listen to this show, because quite frankly, there are not a lot of really positive Xbox shows out there, and I'm happy to know that you guys and gals are enjoying it. So thank you so much for being here. But we have to understand something. We, meaning the 3 people on this panel, the 200 plus people watching, the hopefully thousands of others who are going to watch this and listen to this show after it goes and uploads to YouTube, are the hardcore gamers. And I'm going to say something that's going to probably, I've said it before, and I don't think it's going to shock anybody. The hardcore number is probably no more than 15% per console. So when you talk about the 108 PlayStation 4, 108 million PlayStation 4s that are across the world, why it's so popular isn't because of the hardcore. It's because of the casual fan base. The casual fan base likes the cool system. The PS4 right now is the cool system. And with the Xbox and with the Nintendo Switch, the hardcore will only ever amount to about 15% of the market. Now, if Microsoft is going to do what I think they're going to do, you got to remember, a lot of folks, a lot of gamers left the Xbox back in 2013 for two reasons: price and power. And it's something that Sony used to their advantage, right? DRM was brought up, and they brought out that video. This is how you trade games. That video won them the entire generation. Now, granted, Microsoft has caught up, but it's still a 2-to-1, maybe 2.5 to 1 when you talk about, one console versus the other in regards to sales. And if Microsoft is going to if Phil Spencer wants to win the next generation, this is how it has to go. And they cannot divert from my plan. Now, granted, I'm nobody. And yes, if anyone from Microsoft is listening and you have a position in marketing open, I could use a job and I would gladly come work for you. In fact, I will pick up my life and move to Seattle. Not a problem. So hit me up in a DM and let's talk. But this is what Microsoft needs to do, has to do, and absolutely cannot change the course of what I'm about to say. If the Anaconda is anything past $500, it's going to be, pardon my French, a fucking disaster. Okay? That could not be more than $499 because we saw what happened to Sony back in the days with the PS3. I understand that this is a monster system, but $499, it has to be the power price. I'm not saying that they should lose $100 per console because no company, no investor is going to want to do that. But they have to make sure that they have the power, and more importantly, they have to have the price. Now, the PlayStation 5 is going to be $499, and I am telling you that for an absolute fact. That is not going to be one penny short of $500, simply because it's just too much tech, and Sony as a company is bleeding money from everywhere except the movies they put out that have Spider-Man in the title and their PlayStation division. Everywhere else they are failing, and they cannot afford to take a financial loss like they did with the PlayStation 3. Now, you talk about the second part of this topic, and that is the Lockhart. Why I feel it's actually more important than Anaconda, simply because this console is diskless, meaning that there's no disc. It's going to be a digital system. It's going to be more powerful, slightly more powerful than the Xbox One X. It's probably going to run, from what we hear, at 1440 and run at a strong 60 FPS, which is a lot of people would be happy with. That console absolutely 1000% needs to be $299.99. So after tax, $324 and change. And why it has to be that is because there has to be a disparity between the maximum price at $499 to the entry price. And I'm telling you this right now, with everything that we just talked about, Xbox Game Pass, Project X Cloud, first-party bangers like Halo Infinite and Forza Motorsport 8 and whatever else going into Game Pass day and date, the potential of Cyberpunk going in there day and date when the console launches. If you have all of that in your back pocket, and the Sony PlayStation is, for the PS5, is $500 right alongside the Xbox Anaconda, and they're both right on point with power, people are going to look to say, wait a second, I can play next generation games for $299. I'm getting Cyberpunk in Game Pass. I'm getting Halo. I'm getting all these. I'm going back to Xbox. And people aren't going to just leave their Sony digital library. They're going to find a way to support both. But the more bang for your buck right out of the gate, the start of this generation, could potentially be the Xbox Lockhart. Zemi, am I a madman talking like this? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, we talked about this a little bit last week, I think, and I still believe the same exact thing. Microsoft is absolutely ingenious for having two SKUs. And I've been preaching this narrative for a very, very long time. For me personally, I don't believe that power should play nearly as important of, a factor as pricing, because, the majority of people that are going to be buying your consoles, power doesn't really go through their head. It is pricing and what they can do on the console. Can they play the games that they want to play on that console, and can they afford to do it? Right. That's what the majority of casual consumers, that's what they care about. That's what, they're after. And us as gamers all the time, we always want choice, right? We want choices. We want choices on the way that we play, how we play, and who we play with, right? And so what Microsoft is doing here is giving, the ultimate choice. You have three choices. You can, if you don't want to buy a console at all, play on your smartphone, play on your tablet, play wherever else xCloud is going to be going. If you're more of a traditional gamer, but you don't have that much money, buy a Lockhart for, $300, however much it's going to cost, right? And if you're more of a hardcore player and you want to play, your games looking the best that they could ever possibly do, then buy an Xbox, buy an Xbox Scarlett, right? Buy an Anaconda. And for that reason, because Xbox is giving consumers all of these choices, I think it's just absolutely ingenious what they're doing. And it makes a lot of sense. A lot of casual, consumers out there, whenever a new console comes out, they usually don't buy that console immediately. They usually wait for Black Friday, maybe a year or two later, and then they pick up the console, and some of them do it because they just absolutely can't afford to go out and pay $500, $400 for a brand new console. And then some of them do it because they want to get all of their, bang out of their current gen, systems. And so whenever Xbox is going to be offering the second SKU, I think it's going to influence a lot of people to, jump the gun and hop over to the next generation earlier than what they initially would have. And like what you were saying as well with the PlayStation, I don't think, if your primary way to play right now is PlayStation, all your friends are over there, all your games are over there, chances are you're going to buy a PlayStation 5 whenever it releases or 2 years after. But, the ingenious part, like what you were saying, is the Lockhart is going to be a cheaper alternative. It's a lot easier for somebody to throw $300 for a system than, it is for someone to toss out $500 or $400. I mean, yeah, it's $100 or $200 difference, but that's hard whenever you don't have it, right?
Exactly.
And so, look at the Nintendo Switch. That system sold phenomenally well because, of course, a lot of people like the Nintendo first-party games. But I think one of the biggest reasons is their price point, $300. It's the cheapest console out there. And, for all of these parents looking to buy their kid a system.
Price, brother, price.
They're they may be buying for 2 children. They may be buying for 3 or 4. You don't know, right? And Christmas is a hard time. It's a lot easier dropping $300 for a system than it is to drop, $500 or $400. So for that reason, just for the pricing point alone, not, and then also including in the factor that you're going to be able to play all the games that you're going to, be able to play on the more expensive system for a lower price. I think it's just absolutely ingenious. It's 100% smart.
There's one other factor that I want to make mention before I move on to Welsh, who I'm sure is chomping at the bit to jump in here. Zemi, you said something that I wanted to touch on. If someone has their friends playing on System X, they're going to want to play on System X with their friends. But here's the difference. It's 2019. When these systems come out, it's going to be 2020. What has become almost mainstay? Cross-play, cross-progression. So that wall of where it used to be, well, if I don't have a PlayStation and my brother does, my brother Neo Mental, we can't play the Division 2 together because I'm on console whatever and he's on console X. I can't play with him. Those walls have been broken down. Now, not everyone is jumping on the bandwagon fully yet, but the bigger a multiplayer game is, the better chance it's going to have cross play. So the potential of having people go over and buy an Xbox because they're getting more bang for their buck, because they can get into the next generation at $300, because Xbox Game Pass gives you 200 plus games for $15 a month, because I can play on my tablet while I'm on the shitter, or on my phone while I'm on the train to go to work, and I can continue my game, pick it up where it left off. Where right now, the xCloud is the only place that you can do that. See, Sony, you can stream from the console, but the xCloud is next generation, and right now, sure, the server racks have the Xbox One S. They eventually are all going to, again, what we hear is it's going to be moved from the Lockhart, eventually moved to all Anaconda. So, I mean, the potential to have the power to play anything on any game, anywhere, on anything is huge. These are the striking advantages that Microsoft is lining up. Like I said this in numerous shows before this. It sometimes when Phil Spencer does these moves, it just doesn't make sense because they're moves that look like they're being done in just one move solo. But when you put them all together, and they all start to line up, and he gets all the ducks in order, you're like, wait a second, I didn't see this before. It's just like building a puzzle. You dump the puzzle on the floor, freaking pieces are all over the place. And until you start building those corners, it's not a picture. But once those corners are done, and you have the outline of the thing you're trying to build, now it's much easier to put these centerpieces together, to find those pieces, to fill up those corners. That's what Microsoft is doing. So, Welsh, I want to go to you on this. What are your thoughts on Microsoft looking to do what Sony did? Pull a page right out of the book, the Sony book that won in the generation. They have the first-party developers now, 15 of them. They have Xbox Game Pass. They have Project xCloud, a 2-SKU attack to open up the next generation, one of which could potentially be a $300 investment to get into the next generation. Do you see what The Rock is cooking?
What the Welsh is cooking, God damn it. No, do you know what? I've been sitting back now, just absorbing everything you've said and what Zemi have said. I've seen the odd comment in the live chat, and my opinion hasn't actually wavered at all. It's probably the same opinion I gave on a topic similar to this, maybe a few weeks or months ago, whatever. But like being as like level-headed as I can be now, because I could quite easily, cut my arm open, watch the green blood spill out, and scream to the heavens, "Yeah, Xbox bitches!" But like the reality is, like, PlayStation's no joke. They Sony as a company. I have no doubt they have put a lot of planning in place. They know what they're going to go for, and they got a strong punch behind them. Like they're packing a very hefty punch with their lineup and their player base. And like Zemi said, like they have a very large player base and a lot of. And even though I agree with what you're saying, Boom, about like being able to do cross-platform and cross-progression, that is going to play a huge part in the next generation. I have no doubt, and it could, in fact, work in Xbox or PlayStation's favor. There could be people on Xbox that want a PlayStation, but they feel trapped because of their friends, but that won't be an issue anymore. They can go to PlayStation free like an eagle and not have to worry, and vice versa. It's going to have a huge part to play, and this is what I mean about technological advances, like in the last topic when I was banging on about Xbox Game Pass and where that is going. It is all swings and roundabouts. It's things we have to consider. But the question you posed at the start of this is price versus power? Like, what is most important? I'll answer quickly by just saying that I can't honestly tell you which one is more important, because I do feel that question can only be answered by the individual, because it is very much subjective. Like I know, like loads of my friends are just looking for the deals. They're looking for the cheapest way to do X, Y, and Z. Whereas someone like myself, and I know I speak for a few individuals, like my friend Microbox of X, yourself, Boom, and I know there's plenty of other. Zemi, I can't quite speak for you because I don't know where you stand on the whole price versus performance argument, but I think I speak for a significant amount of people when I say that for them, having the best of the best is the more important option for them. So for me to sit here and say, oh, I think this is more important than that, would be probably quite bold and quite arrogant of me. So I will just say I do think they're both equally as important as each other in their own right, because price is going to have a huge part to play, as we've seen in history books with the PlayStation 4's launch, but then also power has got a huge part to play, as history has shown with the PlayStation 4 power argument and how the power was taken by the Xbox One X. Like, it is definitely, I don't care what side of the fence you're on, whether you prefer a deal, a good price tag, or you prefer having the more powerful box. Either way, at one point or another, you have swayed either way, because it is an argument that goes both ways. But I haven't answered that initial question. I'm going to say what I think and what my opinion, like I said, hasn't wavered once. For me, I honestly, I do believe that Xbox going into the next generation with regards to the entry model of their Xbox ecosystem, their Xbox umbrella, is going to come down to, and again, I'm backtracking to the previous topic, but applications, xCloud, Game Pass, PC, the ability to play on your phone and your tablet, that is going to be a huge entry model for a lot of people, especially the younger generation, the kids out there, the kids who've had iPads since they fell out of their mum's womb. Like, those are the people who are going to be literally soaking in those features and be part of the Xbox ecosystem, by just subscribing to services and utilizing the cloud servers. Now, that's one thing to acknowledge, because by next generation, that's going to most likely be in full effect, or at least close to being in full effect. And so when I look at the entry model, I don't really look at Lockhart as like the cheap entry model to get people involved in the generation, because, and this is where my opinion comes in, and and please, everyone in the chat, put a 1 if you agree with what I'm about to say, or put a 2 if you plain disagree, and put next to your number 2 why you disagree, because I'm open to everyone's suggestion. But I personally think that the Lockhart and the PlayStation 5 are going to be relatively close in power. And I honestly do think that, say the PlayStation 5 is announced to be like $300 or $350, no, that's stupid. Like $399, so $400 short. So like the PS4 when that launched. So let's just say $400 for argument's sake. I think that the Lockhart, if any of our arguments up to this date, Boom, about being aggressive and doing and marketing this as the cheaper option, I honestly think that the Lockhart will undercut PlayStation 5, even if it's just by a small amount. So say the PlayStation 5 price tag is $399. That a Lockhart, which, like I said, on a power argument, I think it's going to be like they're going to be neck and neck. I reckon the price tag will be the same, if not just a little bit less. And then I think where the Anaconda comes in, the Xbox Scarlett, I believe the Xbox Scarlett is going to be the behemoth that Xbox is going to make strictly for the hardcore people who want the power. And now with price tag, people are going to say, oh, it has to be 500. But with regards to my argument here and how I see it, and this is just my opinion, I'm not preaching it as fact, but I do believe that if you're asking for a premium product, you got to expect a premium price. And this day and age, Boom and Zemi, people are paying next to $1,000 a year for the latest iPhone. So if they put the Xbox Scarlett or Anaconda or whatever they're going to call it, as like a $600 price tag, premium hardcore gamer, top of the range, best console in the league, price tag for performance, I think that's a very valid price tag for said system. Because, like I said, in this theory of mine, and this has been in my opinion for a while now, I do think their entry models over at Xbox are going to rely heavily on the younger generation with like the X Cloud and tablets and phones and all that stuff, and also not to mention the Xbox One X. That is going to be a very good contender. People are still going to want to buy that, and with forward and backwards compatibility, you're going to be very much involved in the Xbox ecosystem. So there's a lot of that going on, and then I think that the next generation will begin with PS5 and Lockhart neck and neck in power, close to, if not similar price tags. I do think Xbox will go for the juggler and probably undercut them by a small margin. And then, like I said, for the hardcore player base who want nothing but power and the best, who are not PC gamers, because we're talking consoles now, that is where the Anaconda will come in at, say, like a 300, a 600 price tag, maybe more. I don't know. But that's where I sit on the matter. So again, the question that comes to mind: what's more important, price or performance? I think that the Xbox, I can at least speak for Xbox now because they have the two SKUs. If I'm at all correct in what I'm saying here, in my theory about Lockhart and PS5 being this, like, very neck and neck close in terms of power and price, and then the Anaconda is above and beyond, going that extra mile. I think that question will be answered for a lot of people. And I think that it'll be down to the individual, whether you're part of the 15% or part of the bloody 75% or whatever it is, because my math is crap. Your needs will be met, whether you want price or performance. So that's all I got to say on the matter. And I personally think that if I was working and at Microsoft and I was Phil Spencer's right-hand man, that is what I'd be telling him, or what I would have been telling him years ago, leading up to this point. That would be mine. If I was the marketing guy, I was working for the Surface Pro team, the people behind these machines, doing the architecture, working on the price and performance, and all the pieces that go into making these machines with the RDM and all that stuff. That this is what I would be saying. This is the angle I would go with, and I honestly think it'll be the case. But yeah, that's all I can say.
Well, look, there's a couple of ways to look at this, and you have to look at Microsoft as a whole. You have to look at how much money they are back ending through the services, right? We have a good idea that they're making money hand over fist with Xbox Live, with Xbox Game Pass. The consoles are still selling. As a matter of fact, the SAD edition or the Sade edition for Black Friday won the day for the UK, which tells me that a good chunk of people, the casual audience, which is the younger audience, which is the younger generation that is used to playing on the go, that is used to playing without a disc, meaning that they play on their phones, they play on their tablets, and they're so conditioned not to actually have a disc that a discless console that is going to be the cheapest, it could potentially appeal to them. And you have to remember that when this is going to be coming out, this is going to be around the holiday rush, and parents are not going to be looking to spend $500 on an Anaconda or a PS5. They're going to want to get a next generation console for their son, daughter, or their nephew or whoever. And the $299 price tag that includes, all of these games. You got to remember, packing games don't matter anymore when you have Game Pass packed in there, even if it's only a month. Because if you when you bring home that system for $299, you're getting 200 games in the box. That's something that Sony cannot say. Sony is not doing that. As a matter of fact, I have to thank LMNOP once again for the outstanding $2 super chat. He says, any reasons why Sony isn't doing the same strategy? And the reason why is because there's been a lot of change, at the top of Sony. Right now, they're in a restructuring phase that a lot of big changes are happening, and I think that their ideology is changing over there. That's why so many big named people left without a whisper. And I don't know what they're doing. I've been saying this from the beginning. I'm all for both Sony and Nintendo going the Game Pass route, because I would sign up for that service right freaking now. Now, the way Sony service is, it's currently, I don't think that it has any value. That's for me. That's for me personally. What they're offering, it's just not worth the money. If it's a day and date value, well, of course I would jump on board, but that's not in fact the case. But getting back to what you were saying, Welsh, I'm going to tell you why it's not going to be more than $4.99, and here's the reason. Again, we have to look at this and wonder for a second, how aggressive does Microsoft really want to be in the next generation? Do they really smell blood? Well, the answer is, if they did, if I was a marketing manager for Microsoft, I'm going to tell you how my scenario would go. They are currently co-engineering the chips that are going to work in both Lockhart and Anaconda. Now, we've heard that Sony is working with AMD. And I'm here to tell you, and I'm no tactician, and I'm no guru when it comes to the innards of computers or consoles. But I'm going to tell you there is a significant difference between working with and co-engineering. And when you co-engineer something with someone like AMD, you are finding new ways to cut corners, to cut cost. And if they could get full potential power and then have cutting cost by doing different things that maybe Sony isn't doing, you could come in at $4.99. And again, if I was a marketing manager for Microsoft, this is exactly how I would play it. If the Sony PlayStation 5 is going to be $500, which I believe it is, and somehow or another, from what we're hearing, the Xbox Anaconda is going to be a beast eater and is even one piece more powerful than the PlayStation 5 in any aspect, and they come out at $499.99, that is a gut punch. But here is where the kick to the sack comes into play. Okay, while they're bent over because Microsoft just punched them in the face. As they're bent over, they kick them in the balls by releasing a $299.99 Lockhart that's more powerful than the X, $200 cheaper than the PlayStation 5, and only outpaced by a little bit of power. And that is a marketing strategy that I would do if you want to be a dog who hasn't eaten in 3 days kind of hunger. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think that's what they're going to do. And if they're able to pull this off, it is going to be the biggest turnaround in gaming. Now, I am not discounting Sony at all. We're going to be talking about what I think Sony is doing on tomorrow's Breakfast with Boom and what potential first-party lineup they could have that could combat that. But got to remember, they're going to be appealing to the hardcore who's going to run out and buy every first-party game, the same as the Xbox hardcore. But it's those casuals that want price over power that are going to really make the difference to start next generation. And if Microsoft launches a 2 SKU attack, I think Sony might be in a bit of trouble. But again, that is my opinion on it. Is there anything else either of you fine gentlemen
please.
would like to add?
Yes, please.
Yeah,
absolutely. This is the last thing I want to say on the matter, right? Just piggybacking off of like my opinion that I said earlier, I do genuinely believe I'm very much like hand in the air, open to being corrected or being wrong, because I'm not stating my opinion as fact, but I honestly do believe that the PS5 and the Xbox Lockhart are going to be very, very close to one another in performance and price. Like I said before, I do believe they're going to be neck and neck performance-wise. But I reckon the PS5 might be a little bit more powerful. That's just me just throwing that out there now. I'm not just saying that to pander for people. I do think it will be maybe a little bit more powerful than the Lockhart. But, again, just speculatory. that remains to be seen. But I do think they're going to be very close in price and performance. I do think the Lockhart should undercut the PS5 by like a small margin. And I do think the Anaconda will be above and beyond in price and performance. I do think it'll be a far more expensive system. And I say that because the difference in strategies now, if we're looking at Sony and Xbox, PlayStation's going for the traditional one SKU, entry model approach like they have done in previous. That's not to say they won't come out with a second SKU eventually, like a Slim or a PlayStation 5 Pro. If history repeats itself, it's very likely that they're going to do that. But in terms of the launch of these generations, PlayStation is going in with their PlayStation 5 and Xbox is going in with their 2 SKUs. 3 plus if you include xCloud and all the other options. But if we're talking consoles, like a box under the TV, they're going with a 2 SKU entry system. So already, this is why I feel like my theory / opinion is it holds a lot of water, holds a lot of weight, because whether you're a hardcore gamer who wants the best of the best or a casual gamer and you're a Sony fan, you have no choice but to get the PS5 SKU that is the PS5. Whereas over at Xbox, if you're a casual gamer, you've got the Lockhart that is going to be at the same price tag as the PS5. And if you're the hardcore gamer, you have the choice depending on what you prefer, price or performance, because you can be both. Like, you don't have, just because you're a hardcore gamer doesn't mean you have to have the best performing console out there, but at least you'll have that option. I do believe that Xbox is in a position where they're literally like if you were a fan of PlayStation, you wouldn't even, if you were this is like what I can imagine Phil Spencer telling himself in the mirror when he's brushing his teeth. He's probably thinking, if you're over on PlayStation, a fan of the PlayStation brand, you don't even have that option. Whether you're casual or hardcore, you have the one option only, and that is the PlayStation 5 console. Now, the Xbox, he's looking at it like this, if my theory holds as much weight as I believe it to have. And Zemi, I want to get your opinion on what I'm saying as well, so I will pass the mic now. But I reckon it's a case of, he's looking at it like this. Phil is looking at his strategy, if my theory holds weight, like this. The Lockhart is going to deliver what the PlayStation is delivering. So whether you're hardcore or casual, you're going to get your entry SKU for the next generation. And then that's when he looks at the Anaconda and thinks this machine is simply just to show what we can do in terms of a power, like making the best possible console we can. So I think when it comes to price and stuff, I don't think they're worried about making that particular SKU affordable for the masses, because that's what the Lockhart is for. I honestly do, like I said, I think that the Anaconda is going to be $5.99, if not potentially more. But the Lockhart is going to be neck and neck with the PS5, similar specs, similar performance, similar price, and that will be for the masses, not including xCloud and all that stuff, because that's going to play a huge role as well. But I just think that is where Microsoft and Phil Spencer is going. That is the angle they're taking, because if you're a fan of Xbox, you've got one more option than you would have if you're over on PlayStation. Now, that's not me having a dig at PlayStation. It has worked for them up until now. Look at the PlayStation 4. They've absolutely destroyed us this generation, 2-1. And all they had was one SKU at the start of this generation going forward. So the proof's in the pudding. It's a working scheme. But I just think this generation moving forward, they're going to go the same route PlayStation's going at with their Lockhart SKU. That is going to be their console, their SKU to go toe-and-toe with the PlayStation 5 for price and performance. And then for the people, the individuals, whether it be the small amount or increasingly growing amount of people who want to go into the next generation with the best console you could possibly have, that's where people will be putting down their $600 for the Xbox Anaconda. And that is just my opinion. I do think that it is going to be a tried and true strategy. I think it is going to work for them. I think they're going to see more success than we probably let on, even with a larger price tag, because people are going to want to buy it. But then you're also going to have that Lockhart SKU for the people who don't want to pay that extra $200. But that's all I got to say on the matter. That is, like I said, that is my opinion. I'm not preaching, but I do believe that is likely going to be the case.
Zemi, you make a lot of great points, dude. You really do. You completely knocked it out of the park. Zemi, is there anything you'd like to add to what we've already discussed?
Yeah, Welsh, I hate to do it, but I think I'm going to have to disagree with you, man.
Yes, let's talk about it. Yes, that's what this goes about.
Yeah, so like the Lockhart, I don't think it's going to be, that close to the PS5. I think it's going to be significantly less powerful than the PS5. I think it's still going to be able to play all the games that the PS5 is going to be able to play. Obviously, it might have reduced graphical settings. It might be like playing on medium settings on PC versus ultra settings on PC. But and I don't even think it'd be that big of a difference. But I definitely do not think that they're going to be necessarily anywhere close to each other. I mean, like with the teraflops, I mean, obviously, that's a bad metric to like look at. Well, this console is going to be more powerful than this because it has 8 more teraflops or whatever, right? I mean, that's kind of a bad metric to use because I'm not an expert, but I do know whenever building my PC, you could take a CPU that had. And I know that with the teraflops, we're more talking about graphics, but with a PC, you could take a CPU that had 2 cores, and it would outdo another CPU that had 4 cores. So the whole teraflop isn't the only metric that people should take into account, but it is still a metric there. And for that reason, I definitely don't think it's going to be super close to the PS5. I think that the main competitor to the PS5 is going to be the Xbox Anaconda. I think a lot of people, whenever they look at Xbox is co-engineering with AMD versus PlayStation is just working with them, I think a lot of people look at that like, well, Xbox is just going to blow PlayStation out of the water. And I don't think that that's going to be the case. I definitely think that the Xbox, Anaconda is going to be, a better system. It's for sure going to be more powerful, but I don't think it's going to blow PlayStation out of the water. And for me personally, I think that the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Anaconda are both going to fall into the $500 price tag. And I think that that the Lockhart's going to be a tight $300. But yeah,
I
think they both have to be that price, in my opinion.
I'll say this much, Demi. If like, because again, like I said, my opinion isn't fact. I'm open to suggestions. Yeah. I'm open to be corrected. But if going off what you're saying that like the Lockhart and the PS5 aren't going to be neck and neck like I previously suggested, I honestly do think though, and this is again piggybacking on what you're saying, I honestly do believe that the Lockhart and the PS5 are going to be closer in performance.
I don't think so, dude.
PS5 and the Anaconda. No, I'm saying closer. I'm not saying neck and neck now. I'm saying I reckon that those two SKUs, the PS5 and the Lockhart, will be closer together in terms of performance than the PS5 and Anaconda. If I'm reading into the reading between the lines, the way I between like in all the information we've heard before, and with all this different like with the specs and the dev kits and stuff like that, I don't care if I'm wrong. I'm not. This isn't my ego speaking.
No. Of course not. No, you're entitled to your opinion, dude.
But I honestly do think that the Anaconda will be a leap ahead of Lockhart and PS5. Whether you guys want to agree or disagree that Lockhart and PS5 are neck and neck, because at this point, I don't care. Either way, whether I'm right or wrong, I do think that those two will be closer than the Anaconda and PS5 will be. I reckon whether it's a quantum leap or just a significant gap, I do think the Anaconda will be significantly better performance-wise than the PS5. And I just honestly believe that the Lockhart and the PS5 are going to be closer. Like I said earlier, I do think the PS5 will be more powerful than the Lockhart. I don't think they're going to be neck and neck, but I do think they'll be closer together than say if we're going to compare the PS5 and Anaconda. But yeah, carry on. I just wanted to say, as long as everyone knows that I honestly couldn't give two shades of shit either way. But in my opinion, I do believe that Lockhart and PS5 will be will be the closer contenders in this particular foot race, and then the Anaconda is going to be that significant leap. I do think that. I really do.
Well, real quick, Zemi, before I get back to you, Pixelbit G drops a $5 super chat, and he actually says two things that are really interesting. First of all, he says PS5 equals $499 at 10 teraflops. Scarlett equals $499, 12 teraflops. Lockhart $299, 4.4 teraflops. I think that's the sweet spot. Xbox has better power and price with the 2 SKUs, and he says something else. Now, I haven't really heard this, and I'm going to look into this, but he said that Sony is already talking about the PlayStation 5 Pro. That tells you that they do not have the power narrative. And like I said, I don't know whether or not that's true. First of all, thank you so much for the $5 super chat, dude. I appreciate it. But thank you for the point, because it does make, it's something to consider. But I am going to say this before I hand this back over to Zemi. I am not taking anything away from Mark Cerny and the PlayStation brand. The PS5 is going to be a 4K 60 FPS monster. There's no doubt about it. Now, I honestly believe in my heart of hearts that the Xbox Anaconda is going to edge it out in power. I don't know where that power is going to come from. I don't know if it's going to be a better SSD drive. I don't know if it's going to be better ray tracing. I don't know if it's going to be something that they do with AMD because they're co-engineering it as opposed to Sony just working with them. But I expect the PlayStation 5 to be every penny worth $500, though I do not see it being any cheaper. Zemi, finish your point, sir.
Well, I guess just closing out, because we definitely probably want to hit another topic.
Yes, absolutely.
Just and closing it out, regardless of if power is more important, regardless if price is more important, regardless if you're some 12-year-old kid who really wants to play the next Elder Scrolls, or you're some 50-year-old man who's been playing games for the longest time and wants to game at the highest level possible for console gaming. What's best about what Xbox is doing here is they're giving the consumers the choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
if
exactly.
You're broke,
yes.
If you have nothing but a smartphone, or if you just like mobile gaming, you have the xCloud. If power isn't the most important thing to you and you just want to actually just play the games, play the latest, like the newest Halo, the new, the newest Gears of War, the newest Forza Horizon, or whatever it may be, you can buy the Lockhart. And if you are a more hardcore gamer, power is the most important thing. You don't care how much you have to pay to get that. You have the Anaconda, and I think that's the really ingenious part. I know I keep saying ingenious, but I really think it is an absolutely fantastic move for Microsoft to make, is that they are giving the player all of these options to choose how they want to go into the next generation, and I think that's going to help them a lot going forward.
And you're right. I mean, listen. Listen. Right now, this is another one of those topics that is speculatory for sure. And whether
can I just say one thing, Boom?
Sure.
The beauty of this is whoever's right, no matter who's correct, whether we're all wrong or some of us are right in areas, or Zemi's completely correct, Boom's completely correct. Bottom line, as Xbox fans, whatever the scenario, we're actually all winners here because we're going to be going into the next generation.
I agree 100%.
With a few different, with plenty of options.
Yeah, no, that's true. You're 100% right.
So I think we can go back and forth speculating and giving our opinions, but bottom line, it's a win-win either way. However way you look at it, it's certainly a good feeling as an Xbox fan. At least I know personally, going into the next generation, I'm going to have a plethora of options of how I'm going to approach the next generation. So it's exciting. Whatever the case, it's an exciting time for sure.
No doubt about it. First of all, we're going to move on to the next topic, and it's a good one, but I have to say this out loud. We have officially broken records I never thought possible on a daytime show. We are surpassing 300 people watching live. Holy shit. I cannot believe it. Honestly, this is the show that I dreamt of doing. And I do have other shows, but obviously I love Xbox and I wanted to have a positive show for the community. And I cannot thank you guys and gals for coming out and breaking records today. 300 plus people watching it's an insane number to think about. And it puts me in my opinion, in the upper echelon of podcasters. I see numbers like this from Randall Thor, Dealer Gaming, Crossfire, Xbox Nation. This is to be in the same category as those podcasting giants. Really, as a creator, just has made my entire 2019. So thank you so much for that. But let's move on to a topic that had
Boom.
Yes, sir.
I promise you, like, I just want to piggyback on what you've just said. Like this show, like, it is, like, I remember when you DM'd me initially, like, to say, would you be interested in partnering up? And me and you were getting asked, we were getting giddy like kids at Christmas about like the potential of where this could go. We it's always been a dream of ours since day one. One day hopefully getting like Phil Spencer on here and stuff like that. And it's just amazing to me. Like I say this every week, you guys in the chat, every single one of you that show your support week in and week out, it really, really, really is an amazing feeling. I gotta just throw a huge thank you out to all of you, because like we have fun. It's amazing. Like we can all. This is gonna be one of the most positive shows. Not just the panel and the topics and what we discuss on our end, but you guys in the chat. Like, you get the odd bad egg, but 99.9% of you are here for fun, discussion, debate, but healthy debate. And this show has just grown hasn't it, Boom? It's just how much this show has like progressed since we began, and to surpass 300 viewers live, like, wow. Like, I, for one, and it's not even my show, it's Boom's show, it's Boom's podcast, it's his channel, but like, I speak for the three of us when I say it's amazing.
Absolutely. Well, you're a major part of it, dude. Don't sell yourself short here. Absolutely. You are someone I wanted to work with for many years after meeting you. And like I said, this is all the hard work that we put in. And we would not have a show if it wasn't for these outstanding human beings that are currently in this chat. So thank you so much for that. Of course, I just want to talk about the next particular topic because it's a big one. It is something that had PlayStation. I don't want to. I hate using the word ponies. I don't like saying that. PlayStation gamers were beside themselves in anger on Monday evening. And what am I talking about? Well, MLB The Show has been for decades one of the crown jewels for the PlayStation brand. It is not only the greatest baseball game currently, it's probably the best baseball game ever made. And it has now been confirmed 1,000%, not only by Sony, not only by Microsoft, but by the Players Association and MLB themselves, that this exclusive, this developed Sony game is not only coming to Xbox, not only coming to the Nintendo Switch, but also will be releasing on the PC. And wow, I could not believe that this actually happened. And you know what? We have to talk numbers here for a second. Now, obviously, before we get into numbers, I'm going to do my spiel. Now, as we know, MLB The Show is an incredibly popular baseball franchise from Sony Interactive Entertainment. It is regarded as one of the best PlayStation exclusive series, and it has, it has been a talking point in the nonsense console war where my list is bigger than yours. And I know people want to compare things to one another, but that's always been the thing. That's why I don't get involved in this console war nonsense. Play where you want. Leave me, I play on all three and I enjoy them equally. But today, or more so on Monday, Major League Baseball, MLB, announced the future iterations will be available on other consoles as early as 2021. So next year, I believe it's going to still be exclusive to the PlayStation brand. And the following year, it will, of course, be on all of the different platforms. Now, the question everyone, I'm sure, was asking, could potentially still be asking, is how do we actually know it's coming to the Xbox platform? Well, here is an official tweet from the official Xbox Twitter account, and it's very simple, but yet holds a tremendous amount of weight. And it simply said in parentheses, no more away games, meaning that yes, it is coming to the Xbox platform in 2021. Now, I'm going to say this. This is the official statement from Major League Baseball, and I'm going to break down with the numbers that I talked about why this actually happened. And the numbers are going to be really telling. Here's the statement, though, from Major League Baseball. The Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association, in conjunction with Sony Interactive Entertainment and San Diego Studio, jointly announced today that they have entered into a multi-year extension to continue development and distribution of MLB The Show, the award-winning, officially licensed video game. In addition, the historic expansion of the long-standing partnership will bring Major League Baseball The Show for the first time ever to additional console platforms beyond PlayStation's platform as early as 2021. Complete details will be announced at a later date. Now, this news, as we know, if you follow social media, had PlayStation gamers nearly jumping off bridges. I actually saw some threads that called for the firing and immediate suspension of Jim Ryan and newly appointed head of Sony, Herman Hurst, to resign immediately. I saw others who claimed that they were leaving the brand due to this move, and obviously it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Now, let's get into the numbers before I get into the actual panel's opinion on this. Now, look, it's safe to assume. Now, I went looking for the actual sales numbers for MLB The Show 2019. I got to be honest with you. I looked up and down, left and right. I couldn't find shit. So what I did is I looked at the last couple of years. And last year's MLB The Show 2018 came in. Let me see if I could find a number here real quick. They came in at about 438,000 copies the first week sold. Now, look, that's 438,000 copies. That is nothing to sneeze at. But when you are an exclusive for one particular platform and you have potentially at that time, let's just say 90 million consoles, that is less than 1%. That is not a good scenario. So then you say to yourself, well, wait a second, Boom, you don't know how many they sold in total. So what I did is, because my glass is always half full rather than half empty, I decided to say, well, let's just say for shits and giggles, to be fair, because it's an amazing baseball game. It's an amazing franchise. They sold 2.5 million copies in total from asshole to elbow from 2018 to 2019. Let's go crazy here. Let's go bananas right live on the air and say 3 million copies sold instead of the 2.5 that I have in the pages in front of me. Let's go crazy. So they sold 3 million copies. Say, wait a second, Boom. 3 million copies of anything is fantastic. How dare you? And I say to you, well, I'm no business major by any stretch of the truth, but I can tell you from common sense that development on a game like The Show, because of its outstanding and ridiculous quality, probably costs a pretty penny. And then you have to figure in the licensing fees for both the MLB, the Major League Baseball Association, as well as the Players Association. And then you have to tack on all of the marketing dollars that it's going to cost to have this played on ESPN. and all of the different sports channels that obviously play baseball. And at the end of the day, even 3 million copies, I'm certain of this, is not enough for Major League Baseball, the Players Association, and Sony Interactive to turn around and say, we're going to continue with this series. Now, obviously, they're not going to cancel the series. So what do you do as a business owner? You have to expand on your business, and bringing this to multiple platforms, basically every other platform available except your toaster, is an ingenious idea. And I don't know why Sony guys and gals are all bent out of shape, because you know what this means? The more money they bring in for this title, the better chances they could use that money to continue development on newer games, buy newer studios. Exactly what Microsoft is doing with all of their sales from Xbox Game Pass. So I want to go to the Welsh Gamer first on this. What do you think of this move? Is this the biggest move of 2019?
Do you know what? I'm not gonna lie. I didn't even know what MLB was until about 2 days ago.
Okay, okay.
No. That's the thing, though. Like, that isn't really relevant to the question at hand, because I don't even need, I don't need to be a fan of baseball. I'm in the UK. We don't even have baseball. The closest thing we have to baseball out here is cricket, and cricket is ass. Cricket is lame. I'd rather watch paint dry than watch that shit. So, like, maybe I'll get my hands on this game and it'll introduce me into the wonderful world of baseball, and I can finally set fire to all the cricket bats I was given over Christmas. Is all my life got is torture, boo. It's fucking torture, goddammit. But no, I gotta say, with regards to this baseball game, going from as an exclusive title to going across the board, I mean, if I'm just speaking, just like logistically, from a business perspective, it makes sense, especially because it's a sport game. It's like why, like, it's like if you had FIFA or Madden, like, exclusive to just the one system. Like, for most people, sports like it's a universally adopted and enjoyed experience, and like. With that said, it's a very rare thing as a game developer. But with that said, like, you're talking like a wasted opportunity just having that game exclusive to the one platform. Like take Madden for instance. If Madden was exclusive to PlayStation, like, they'd just be cutting their profit in half, like maybe more, because the amount of people on all the other potential systems, if it went multi-plat, that would buy into that, because there's sports people around the world. And then you go to the casual market. Most people today in the casual market invest in consoles or a PC or whatever because of sport games or your Call of Duties, because it's just one of those games people can pick up and play. But I just think it's a good business move, because more people will buy this game, especially like baseball fans, but even people like myself. Like, if this game was to like drop in Game Pass or something, or like, I don't know if there'd be a deal on the Xbox store or something, but like, it's a game that I would never have thought of picking up. But the fact that it's available, I'll pick it up. So, like you said, the developer will make more money, and with that money, they can go ahead and try other things and expand their reach. And I just think, especially because it's a sport game, it should well and truly be on multiple systems. But I don't know if there's much more I can say on the matter, as I'm not a big fan of baseball. I can't tell you if from a fan's perspective, because I don't have a clue if it's even a good game or not. But no, I think it's a smart move generally, because as it is a sports game, and especially in American sport, like American sports over here in the UK are getting bigger every year. NFL is getting bigger over here. Baseball is getting bigger over here. Basketball is getting bigger over here. It's just expanding that reach, and more people getting involved in those games, whether you're on Xbox, PC, PlayStation. Like, it makes the most sense for maximum profit, maximum reach, maximum mind share, and for in terms of profit, the company behind that game, it'll certainly open up more doors for them in the future with more projects and more games moving forward. So I think it's a good move. But as someone with little to no experience or knowledge of this particular title, I'd be just talking for the sake of talking if I said anything else on the matter.
Well, look, I'm going to say this. I have to thank a couple of people with the super chats. First of all, JD Gamer, who is always here, and he's very, very generous. He drops an additional $5 super chat. He says something that if this happened, if what I'm about to read actually happened, I think that there would be people some of the very vocal Sony community would probably be put on some sort of don't hurt yourself, step away from the edge watch. He says, imagine if what happened with MLB happens with like something like Spider-Man. The internet is going to explode. Look, I can tell you this. One, I don't think that would ever happen, simply because, I mean, Spider-Man as it currently sits, I think they have surpassed 15 million. 15 million. Now, I know that some people are going to be like, well, wait a second, Boom. You were just talking about 108 million versus 15. How is that any better? But it's still 15 million copies of a one game that is an exclusive. That is monumental. And Spider-Man is a big brand, and I don't see that happening.
I'm not trying to cut you in half here, Boom, but like with regards to Spider-Man, I wouldn't even have thought of it unless you brought it up just then. But like we've discussed this before, like Sony doesn't even own Spider-Man.
No, no. They license it out from Marvel. Marvel owns all of the rights for the toys and the games.
Yeah. So if Marvel decided tomorrow, like, oh hey,
they could put a power play on them. Sure, absolutely.
I mean, like, I'm not saying it will happen. I'm not saying that. I don't have a clue, but I certainly wouldn't place my bets on it never happening, because it could. Like, there's always that chance. Like unless PlayStation literally own the IP, which they don't, you never know. You just never know.
No, I mean, listen, the reason why I don't think it would happen is because Marvel still wants Spider-Man in the MCU, and I think that right now they're trying to play nice with Sony, so I don't see a Disney power play move like that. I am going to say that the president of Disney has said at the last investors meeting that more superhero characters will be going to other game developers to bring their characters to life. So I would not be remotely surprised if you see, like, say, Microsoft gets an exclusive character the same way that Sony has gotten Spider-Man, and they go and they have an exclusive. That wouldn't surprise me, because, like I said, they're looking to expand on who is going to be developing, their next big Marvel game. I don't see it happening, but I kind of want to just bring this back around to Zemi. Zemi, listen, I don't know whether you love baseball or you hate it, but I am going to simply tell you that there were a lot of people not only taken aback by this move. I mean, it basically it's Sony becoming a third-party developer, and I mean, yes, it's just one game, but it is a big game. What are your thoughts on the MLB The Show? One of the, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. It's the only baseball game that anyone wants to play, has now become a multi-plat.
I mean, at the end of the day, we have to remember that, gaming for us, for Boom, for Welsh, for everyone that's watching this, gaming for us is a passion. And for these CEOs, it's a business.
It's a business, correct.
And what's going to make them the most money is what they look at. The same way that EA looks at their competition and tries to adopt the way that they do business to make, to maximize their profits, is the same way that the MLB and PlayStation are going to look at this. This game, it's so decent, but whenever you compare it to other sports titles, it doesn't match up. I mean, specifically FIFA 19, I believe, sold 20 million copies. And obviously that's FIFA. FIFA is FIFA.
Yeah, exactly.
MLB is never going to come close to those numbers. But that the guys over there running the MLB, the guys over at Sony, are looking at that, and they're, thinking to themselves, couldn't we possibly do better?
Oh
right?
yeah, they're gonna triple their sales with it going to multiple platforms.
Absolutely. And then look at other PlayStation exclusives. God of War, I think it sold like 5.2 million. Spider-Man 13 million. Nothing close to those other exclusives blow the MLB out of the water, right? And so, I mean, if I was the PlayStation leadership, I would definitely want to get that game on as many platforms. Or if I, worked for the MLB, I would definitely want to get that game on as many platforms as possible, because it's gonna make more money that way. That's why Madden doesn't give out a year exclusive to PlayStation. That's why FIFA doesn't do that. It's because they know that that's going to kill their profits more than it's going to help them. And this money that is going to be made can be used in multiple different ways. Like we were saying, Sony isn't doing super amazing. They're doing great with films now. Their gaming section is doing really, really good, but they could always use more money to fuel future MLB games, to fuel future first party games, to get more people excited about their platform. Obviously there's a ton of excitement with the PlayStation, but more excitement is always better than less. But overall, I think that this is a great move. I'm not really a huge MLB fan. I know what baseball is. Well, you were cracking me up whenever you're like, I don't even know what MLB is. But yeah, I mean, and I've watched some baseball before. I mean, it's a cool sport. Not really into it. Probably won't buy the game, but I'm definitely happy to hear that it's going to be coming to more platforms, because I know that there's a ton of people who play Xbox, play Nintendo, play PC, and they really love baseball. And, I've said this before, I don't think it's fair for, any company to say you can't play, a game that you're a huge fan of because you bought, the wrong $500 system. So I think it's an excellent move. It's definitely going to make them more money, and it's definitely consumer friendly. So absolutely fantastic move.
Okay, well, listen, I'm going to say this. JD Gamer actually brings up something that it's a little different than what we're talking about, but I want to just make mention of it, because he says there are rumors say that Sony is selling their movie studio, so they'll be losing the Spider-Man movies as well, and Marvel will have no reason to continue to play night. Well, I just want to comment on that real quick. What he's talking about is Sony is bleeding money in their movie division. The only way that they're making money has been through the Spider-Man franchise, and they have all these different movies set up to expand the Spider-Verse, and they have all these great plans. But the bottom line is there has been rumors that Apple or potentially Amazon would buy Sony. Not Sony PlayStation, but Sony movies, the movie aspect of Sony, to get all of their movies onto their streaming service, because everything is becoming streaming. If in fact that does happen, I'm sure there's people going to ask, well, wait a second, Sony owns the right. That means that Amazon is going to get it. No, that's not the way it works. If Sony, for whatever reason, is purchased by anyone, the movie rights are immediately reverted back to the original owner, which of course would be Marvel, which is now owned by Disney. And that is why that you had heard that Disney is going to buy Spider-Man for $18 trillion. They're not going to do that, because I'm sure that they're just going to play the long game, and eventually Sony Pictures is going to be sold the same way Fox was. It may not be now. Heck, it may not be for another 5-10 years, but eventually they're just not going to be able to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. They're just bleeding money in that division terribly. And if you couple that with the money that they're bleeding in phones and in electronics, the only division making money for them is currently the PlayStation division, which would never sell. But that's why all of this restructuring is going on at Sony. And sometimes a big company that's looking to make a sale of a piece of it, does all these restructuring to make it look more appealing to a potential buyer. Again, I'm not a business major by any stretch of the truth, but it is common sense. But look, I'm going to say this. We're at the 2-hour mark. In fact, we're past the 2-hour mark. I did have one more topic. I don't know if you guys can hang around for another 10 minutes. How does that sound?
Anything
I'm good.
For you, Boom.
Yeah.
Okay, so listen, we're going to close out this one with a
Boom.
story. Yes,
Boom.
yes.
Anything for you, Boom.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. That's very kind of you to say. But listen, this next story, this next topic is one that I had a lot of people in the Sony camp cheering, and a lot of people in the Xbox camp very disappointed. In a story that will undoubtedly disappoint many gamers in the Xbox community, it has officially been confirmed by Square Enix themselves through box art for Final Fantasy VII Remake that it is in fact a PlayStation exclusive for an entire year. This information has been kept a huge secret, and one of the most regarded secrets that Square has held on to. Obviously, Final Fantasy VII, if you don't know, is probably one of my personal all-time favorite RPGs. If you're wondering, I already have mine for the PlayStation 4 pre-ordered. I had it pre-ordered for I think 3 months already because Amazon had a deal, was 20% off, and I got it for like $47 or something like that. So of course I'm all in. I'll beat it on the PlayStation 4 and I will buy it again on the Xbox, whatever, Scarlett, whatever it's called, because I love that series so much. But this, obviously, Final Fantasy VII, without even trying to balloon this thing, it's probably one of the most favorite RPGs of all time, especially when you look back to the PS1 days. Now, I beat it. I had imported it from Japan. Now, I used to import everything, and I beat it with my friend Mike, and we did it through GameFAQs. Back then, we had to print out all the translations. It was a effing nightmare, but we did it, and I beat it in Japanese, and then I beat it again when it came out on the American version for the PlayStation 1. The only thing that we don't know, the only thing that we do know is the box art that was leaked actually said that it's a timed exclusive, and it says PlayStation exclusive, play first on PS4, and it reads on the box art, timed exclusive until 3/3/2021. So that is the soonest an Xbox player will be able to, of course, play the remake of Final Fantasy VII. Now, what's extremely unclear and has not been made known by Square Enix at this point is that the recently revealed information is how many parts is Final Fantasy VII going to be. And let's say, for instance, that it's 3 parts in length. Will each of these parts be under the same banner, meaning that PlayStation is always going to have a year advantage on each part? Or is this something that where, once this initial launch of Final Fantasy VII, the first part releases, is it going to be dual releases? We don't know any of that. Now, of course, you can speculate all you want, but until Square Enix themselves says something, it's just going to be my word versus the world, I suppose. But my answer to this problem, and it's not everybody in gaming can afford to support multiple consoles. And again, my easy answer is, well, I'm going to play it on the PlayStation 4 because it's my favorite RPG, and I am not effing waiting. I'm sorry. I'm not. Listen, I'm sure that the Scarlett version is going to look amazing, and they may even add some bells and whistles to it with a year worth of development from, timed exclusive to release. They could add some extra things, some game of the year stuff that they usually do on stuff that's exclusive and comes out a year later. I don't know, but I'm not certainly waiting. Now, I pose actually a 2-tier question to both the chat and, of course, my esteemed panel here. Are you going to wait for the Xbox One version of Final Fantasy VII, or are you going to skip it entirely? And the second one, and this is the one I think is going to be more decisive, and I think I know Zemi's answer, but I want to hear it anyway. Does Phil Spencer need to play more hardball and start following suit and getting more one-year exclusives like Sony is doing? Zemi, I want to go to you first on this, dude.
You think but you already know my answer.
I know, but you know what? Your answer is no. Don't do that. I understand that. But are you, like, as an Xbox only player, would something like Final Fantasy VII get you to say, you know what? I don't want to wait. I love RPGs, and I'm going to go out and buy a PS4 for this.
Well, let me start off by saying that this definitely sucks a lot for, all the Final Fantasy fans out there, but fortunately a lot of Final Fantasy is coming to Xbox here soon, so hopefully that will help a lot of people, I guess crave their appetite for this game. But I do know that Final Fantasy VII, at least I've heard from a lot of people, is a lot of people's all-time favorite Final Fantasy, game. If I'm not mistaken. The only game I've ever played from Final Fantasy was 10, and I really enjoyed that. For me to answer, I guess, the first question, I would definitely wait for its release on Xbox if I was going to purchase it. And then for the second question, no, I definitely don't think that Phil Spencer needs to follow PlayStation's, old-timey tactics. I would rather see Phil spend money on first-party games, acquiring, a few more, possible studios, or just getting games on Game Pass like Cyberpunk 2077. I would rather see that than him going out to deprive gamers on another platform of a franchise that they really want to play.
Okay, I mean, listen, that I kind of knew where you were going, but I had to ask the question anyway. I mean, great answer. I mean, listen, you have to admit you stay true to what you believe in, and you don't want to see that, and that's admirable for sure. Welsh Gamer. Now, again, I don't necessarily know if you're even a Final Fantasy fan, but Final Fantasy VII Remake. There were a lot of Xbox gamers that were PlayStation gamers that probably played this and are probably going to be disappointed. And, again, I can't say if they support multiple consoles like I do. Like I said, for me, the easy answer is, well, I'm not waiting because I'm a huge fan of the series. And I don't know how many parts it's going to be, but I'm going to buy them all. I don't care if I have to buy them all twice because I'm probably going to do that. But what are your thoughts on Final Fantasy VII being a year exclusive to the PlayStation platform?
On a personal level, I couldn't care because I don't even care for Final Fantasy. But on principle of a game, a multi-platform game being paid to be exclusive for a year, I have to completely and utterly, wholeheartedly, the bastard took the words right out of my mouth, but I have to agree with Zemi Games over here because I do believe in one prong answer to your two-prong question, I do believe that Phil needs to practice a lot of hardball moves going into the next generation. I think there's a lot of room for ballsy, aggressive moves in marketing strategies and stuff like that. But I'm not a fan of this. And I know people might pipe up in the chat in a moment and be like, "Yeah, Welsh, you hypocrite. Remember the Rise of the Tomb Raider game?" Yeah, I do remember. I distinctly remember Microsoft paying to get that game published because they didn't have the money. Hence why, as a returning favor, that game was a year exclusive to the Xbox. But that was an exception. That was an exception to the rule. I do not believe Phil, and I completely agree with his methods. I don't believe Phil would ever go out of his way to pay for any game, Final Fantasy or whatever, to be exclusive for a year or more on the Xbox platform. Now, once again, and this goes straight back to the original topic where I was on about marketing and perks, and when Sony and Nintendo catch up, it'll be a case of we got marketing for this game. It's going to be day and date on our subscription service, the Xbox Game Pass, PlayStation Game Pass, whatever. I'm with Zemi all the way on that front. I think that this would have been a better played scenario where, like, if PlayStation had like PlayStation Game Pass, for example, instead of it being a year exclusive, they could have just done it in a way that like the game is day and date on their PlayStation subscription service for no extra cost, and then people on Xbox or Nintendo or whatever have to pay the full price tag. So it's still a nice perk, but no year exclusivity, and I think that that's definitely a strategy that should be benched here on out. It has no place. Like I've seen Phil Spencer say it a few times in interviews that he would never ever put money down on excluding other platforms from playing a multiplat. It's one thing to have your first party and games like, for in Xbox's case, your Halos and stuff like that. Like you're not like, you've got to draw the line somewhere. But a game like Final Fantasy that, is now being, branching out, like their future titles will be coming to multi-platform and stuff. I find it crazy that this is still even a practice. But big ups to Sony. I mean, they have got gumption. They know how to strike a vital blow, and it'll only benefit them in a sense, like in terms of a profitable level. But I don't want to see Xbox jumping on that wagon personally. People might disagree or agree with me, but I'm with Zemi on that one. I think that if Xbox was in Sony's shoes now and they had the ball was in Phil's court on what to do with the Final Fantasy VII game, whether to have it exclusive for a year or this, that, the other. If I was Phil and I had that power, I would just make it a day and date Game Pass drop and still allow the game to be bought on other platforms. Maybe instigate some cross progression and if I don't know if there's any kind of multiplayer on Final Fantasy VII.
No, not as of yet. No.
Oh,
He's
well,
not on that for sure.
But if there was though, hypothetically, then maybe employ some sort of cross-platform play where you can play that's what I would do. I just with regards to gaming, I know like for years now it's been a console war and there's been this list war and all this. But like bottom line, me as an individual, I personally just want to see everyone enjoying games and having fun, especially if they're multi-plat. I don't believe in paying for exclusivity on any level. But for those of you who are fans of Final Fantasy VII, and you know, I'm just a dumbass Welsh gamer. Like, nothing I say even matters. It's not going to change anything. If you're a big fan of the game, I suggest that, you know, if you literally are chomping at the bits, then maybe this is the time to buy a PlayStation, get one at Kex for like cheap, and just get your hands on the game. But if you're willing to wait, you know, there's going to be plenty of games between now and then to fill the gap. So and from what I gather, they're releasing this game in parts. So in theory, by the time it comes out for Xbox, it'll be a full game. You won't be waiting for part 2 and part 3. Those parts would have already been released. So it'd probably be more beneficial to wait anyway in this particular case. But I don't know what else to say. But no, in terms of I don't want Xbox to follow on that front. I don't want them to do that.
Okay, I mean, it makes perfect sense. Well, listen, I'm going to say this. First of all, this has been one hell of an Xbox Factor podcast. I mean, we topped out at 316 people watching live. Records are being smashed left and right. The banter between most of the folks in the chat have been really well. I mean, again, I think I'd like to believe I attract a fun bunch of folks, and I'm glad that you can come here, speak your piece. Even if you're having a different opinion, it's perfectly okay. It's when the name calling and the finger pointing, and God forbid anyone gets, you know, starts throwing racial slurs, you're automatically perma banned for that. We don't take any kind of that shenanigans on this channel. But you guys and gals, you know, had a lot of really, really super interesting things to say. I want to thank everyone for their their super chats. I have to thank the community for that, because today was ridiculous, and honestly, it really was very overwhelming. Not only with the super chats, but the amount of people that came out to listen to the show. That's a big deal. And of course, I could not have a show because I couldn't speak for 2+ hours by myself. I tried it once before, and I nearly lost my voice for a week. So I would never do that. And I couldn't do that without having a pair of individuals that not only love Xbox, but are community members worth following and watching on their respected YouTube channels. Let's get to the outro. Zemi, I'll start with you first. You have an amazing YouTube channel. You're constantly interacting with the community. You're constantly doing let's plays and showing people how to do things. Like, for instance, you were nice enough to help me the other day. I know I don't see her in the chat. Her name is Michelle Alexandria. If you happen to be listening to this, I know you have reached out to me about the commercial aspect that can sometimes be a real pain in the ass with YouTube. Thanks to the kindness of Zemi, he has taught me how to space out the ads that unfortunately I have no control over. So I assure you that when you start watching the shows moving forward, you're not going to get 17 ads or it's usually 6, like in the first half hour of a show, which of course would be annoying. I didn't even know you can do that, but thanks to Zemi, I now do. So I stretch them out between the whole episode so it doesn't seem so annoying. And of course, that's the kind of love and care that Zemi does bring to the community, and he's always willing to help, and that's something that's admirable. Zemi, please tell everyone where they can follow you on Twitter, but more importantly, check out your channel.
Well, Boom, thank you so much for those nice words, and thank you so much for hosting this show, coming up with all these fantastic topics. This podcast today was absolutely fantastic. I think you guys said that we had like 300 people watching, which is absolutely incredible. So thank you so much for setting up the podcast. And if you guys enjoyed my opinions, on all the different subjects, or even if you didn't, definitely make sure to check me out on Twitter at Zimmy Games. My DMs are always open. You can always throw me a message, and we can have a good conversation talking about gaming, news and topics and all sorts of things. So definitely check me out. Follow me on Twitter if you want. And you guys can also check me out on YouTube by the same name, Zimmy Games. I do a bunch of Xbox tutorials, gaming news, game reviews, let's plays, here and there, a few unboxings here and there as well. So if you guys like that type of content, which I'm sure you probably do, definitely check out my YouTube channel as well. And thank you so much, Boom and Welsh.
Well, always great to have with you, have you on the show, and of course, always great to work with you. And the Welsh Gamer, who gave us an additional 20 minutes of your time. Thank you so much for that, dude. Really appreciate it. Missed you on the show, so I'm glad that you're back and that we have our schedules intact. How you like them apples? Tell everyone where they can follow you, but more importantly, talk about for a second what you usually close out your show. Close out the shows with anyone struggling with mental illness, who they could go to if need be.
No, absolutely, Boom, absolutely. First, I just wanted to say thank you to yourself and Zemi. Always a great time talking with you guys and everybody in the chat. Thanks to all of you. We hit a huge milestone today, and this show is growing, week by week, and you're all incredible. I mean, whether you like me or hate me, that's absolutely up to you. The fact that you guys turn up and engage with us, and you debate us and talk and get involved in the topics, it means a great deal to me. I know it means a great deal to Boom and Zemi also, but absolutely incredible. I really enjoyed myself this week. Great topics, absolutely phenomenal topics. And this will be the last time we do this show till after Christmas, isn't it, Boom?
Yeah, I believe so. Next, I think next week we have a show. I believe we're going to do one show next week, and then the week of Christmas, we're going to take a week of hiatus off. And what we're looking to do, just to kind of keep everybody in the loop, is that instead of obviously the following week, which is going to be New Year's week, we are going to attempt to do a show on that Tuesday afternoon, which would, of course, be New Year's Eve, the 31st. And why I'm picking that particular day is because Mrs. Boomstick is going to be off the remainder of the week, and I kind of just want to spend time with her. But I want to close out 2019 with a huge show that's going to be showcasing the best of Xbox in 2019, what we loved, what we hated, some of the biggest news, news reels that I can go back and find, as well as what our expectations are for Xbox in 2020. And I'm also trying to get some big time guests. I don't want to say who, because I haven't DM'd anybody yet, but because I know people are going to be on vacation that week, I might be able to snag a huge panel of 6 big time Xbox people. But I will once I have that locked in, I will of course do my advertising that you guys know that I'm good for. So please continue, Welsh.
Yeah, not an issue, man. I just wanted to double check before I started throwing out Merry Christmas, because I wasn't sure if it was our last show. But I'll save that lovely Merry Christmas to you all outro for next week. But yeah, guys, I mean what I said. Love each and every one of you. You bring a great energy to the chat. As for me, I'm the Welsh Gamer. Please follow me on Twitter at the Welsh Gamer 93, one word. And again, like Boom just eloquently put out, like I do this every time whenever I am on this show. I know I had a few weeks off, but I'll always end with the same message to anybody anywhere out there in the world. Please hit me up in the DMs on Twitter if you're suffering with any kind of anxiety or depression. Honestly, the most important thing to remember, guys, is like we all suffer with our own demons. There's like some of us struggle more than others, but everyone somewhere, some way, shape, or form has got a hurdle to climb over. And the most insane thing is, even with a huge network around you, a lot of people out there think that they have to suffer in silence and suffer it alone, and they do believe that they are in fact alone when that couldn't be further from the truth. So I just want to open my arms and say that my DM is always open. We can party up on Xbox and talk, or just message back and forth on Twitter, or get on a Skype call, whatever it is you need. I am there, and I'll always be there for a chat to make sure you're okay and give you advice and help you out if I can. So that's all I got for you guys. That's the Welsh Gamer. Cheers, Boom, and again, great show.
Well, thank you again, of course, for being here. Love that you're back in your seat, and we're talking about Xbox. Again, this has been one heck of a show, and I'm going to say this. I am 46 subs away from the magic 3,000. If you're new to today's show, and I think we had a lot of new folks here, if you enjoyed, today's show, you might enjoy some of the other programs that I do weekly. I can guarantee you that when we don't have holidays, you get 6+ hours of free live content per week, 3 different types of shows, many different types of personalities, and it's all going to be fun and opinionated, and it's going to be positive. And if you're looking for that kind of podcast, I think that I have something for you. Hit that subscribe button. Let's get me past 3,000 before Christmas. That would be awesome. And more importantly, if you enjoyed today's show and it's not going to be too much of a bother, hit the like button and possibly even put this out there on social media so others could possibly enjoy the show as much as you did. And of course, and I say this, not in jest, if you did not like what I was talking about, if you're not smelling what the Boom is cooking, then hit the down button and don't share this video with anyone. And I'm perfectly okay with that as well. But I want to wish everyone amazing day. Please enjoy the rest of your day gaming on whatever console that you're enjoying on. And we will see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. Take care, everyone, and have an awesome day.